The sun bleeds out over the Colombian jungle, its last rays struggling to pierce the tangled canopy. Above, the sky ignites in violent shades of orange and purple, a breathtaking canvas that seems to warn of the darkness to come. Dust settles heavy and wet over Antioquia, a thick blanket of humidity choking the air, pressing against every surface and every breath. The wild's nightly symphony begins. Crickets buzz, frogs croak, monkeys cry out from the shadows, their calls echoing through the trees. But tonight, another sound slices through the natural chorus, the mechanical growl of a chainsaw, unnatural and jarring. It rips through the harmony, a serrated edge of terror that shreds the peace of the jungle night. For the villagers, this is no sound of progress or industry. It's a death knell, a warning that violence is near. They know who wields that machine, Hernando Morales, a name spoken only in whispers, a shadow that haunts their dreams. The chainsaw is his calling card, a broadcast of brutality and a symbol of the cartel's iron grip. Its roar travels on the wind, a chilling promise of what happens to those who cross cartel lines. Mothers pull children close, hearts pounding in their chests. Men check locks, hands trembling, knowing deep down that locks mean nothing against the terror outside. The air becomes charged with dread, thick with the imagined scent of blood and gasoline, as if violence itself lingers in every breath. Every shadow stretches longer, twisting into menace, as if the night itself conspires to hide the horrors lurking within. The jungle, once a provider and protector, transforms into a monstrous entity, concealing a human predator among its roots and vines. The chainsaw's scream is the soundtrack to their nightmare, echoing through the darkness, impossible to ignore. In a small finca, a family sits in darkness, lanterns extinguished, afraid even of the light. They do not speak. They only listen, every sense straining for the next sound. The saw's buzzing plays a cruel game with their sanity, each rev a reminder of their helplessness. Each pause is worse than the sound, a moment where imagination runs wild, conjuring horrors in the silence. They are prisoners in their own homes, held captive by a noise that means chaos reigns, their world shrinking to the space between four trembling walls. This is the world Hernando Morales, the chainsaw man, has created. A world where the jungle whispers not of life, but of fear. To understand the monster, you must first understand the cage that shaped him. Colombia in the 1980s was a nation at war with itself, breathtaking beauty, unspeakable violence. The land was a paradox, lush mountains and vibrant jungles, but beneath the surface a constant undercurrent of fear and bloodshed. The government's power was a distant illusion. In the countryside, the cartels ruled with iron fists and ruthless ambition. Entire regions slipped beyond the reach of law, becoming playgrounds for warlords and traffickers. Medellin and Cali cartels were shadow states, with their own armies and brutal justice. Their influence seeped into every corner of society, corrupting officials, intimidating rivals, and silencing dissent. Coca fields carpeted the hillsides, fueling endless violence. This wealth paid for assassins, weapons, and corruption, turning young men into soldiers and entire villages into battlegrounds. Lawlessness was the norm. Police were outgunned or on the payroll. Real power grew from the barrel of a gun, and the rules were written in blood. This was the world that birthed Hernando Morales, a world where violence was currency and survival demanded cruelty. The cartels needed enforcers who could instill primal fear, men who would do whatever it took to maintain control. Morales spoke the language of brutality fluently. He was the ultimate instrument of terror in a land already saturated with it. The jungle provided cover for ambushes and hidden graves. Rural isolation meant atrocities occurred with no witnesses, and the silence of the wilderness hid countless secrets. In this savage garden, a man with a chainsaw could become a legend. His name whispered in terror, his deeds echoing through the trees. Morales thrived where others perished, carving his legacy in a land where mercy was weakness and fear was the only law. Hernando Morales was not just a killer, he was a performer. Every act of violence was a calculated display, a twisted form of theater that left his audience paralyzed with terror. He relished the attention, knowing that every whisper of his name added to his legend. His violence was theatrical, designed for maximum psychological impact. Morales didn't just want to eliminate his enemies. He wanted to haunt the dreams of everyone who heard about his crimes. Each scene was staged to linger in the minds of those who witnessed it, directly or through rumor. He understood fear was a more potent weapon than any bullet. The anticipation, the dread, the the knowledge that he could strike at any moment. These were the tools he wielded with chilling precision. His method was chillingly consistent, a ritual of horror on Antioquia's lonely roads. Night after night, he turned the region's highways into hunting grounds, transforming ordinary routes into corridors of terror. He waited, hidden, knowing his target's routines. Morales studied his victims, learning their habits, their schedules, their weaknesses. He was patient, striking only when the moment was perfect. The ambush was sudden, victims trapped, no chance to escape. The shock was part of the plan, ensuring that panic would spread before anyone could react. Morales was never in a hurry. The capture was just the prelude. He moved with a cold, deliberate calm, savoring the fear in the air. He savored the shift from ordinary life to terror. The transformation of a peaceful night into a nightmare was his signature, a mark that no one could ignore. He forced victims to watch, wanting witnesses to spread the story. Morales knew that fear multiplied when it was shared, and he made sure his horrors would echo through every village and town. Then, he started the chainsaw, the cue that shattered hope. The sound alone was enough to break even the bravest spirit, a mechanical roar that signaled the beginning of unspeakable violence. The brutality was methodical, a message carved in flesh. This is the price of defiance. Each wound was a warning, each victim a grim testament to his power. Bodies were not hidden, they were displayed as warnings. Morales wanted the world to see what happened to those who crossed him. He left them on roadsides, plazas, bridges, gruesome tableaus meant to be found. Each location was chosen for maximum visibility, ensuring the message would travel far. Police, journalists, villagers, all were meant to see. The spectacle was as much for the living as it was for the dead. Morales was not just disposing of enemies, he was building his own myth. Every act of violence added another layer to his legend, making him larger than life. Each act cemented his reputation as the most feared man in a country full of feared men. In a land where violence was common, Morales stood apart, his name spoken in hushed tones. His violence was a message to rivals, locals, and even his employers. It was a warning that no one was beyond his reach, and that fear itself was his greatest weapon. The legend of the Chainsaw Man grew with every atrocity. Stories spread like wildfire, each more terrifying than the last, until Morales became a living nightmare. Morales turned murder into a spectacle. Fear was his masterpiece, and the world was forced to watch, powerless to look away. Morales's crime scenes were unlike any others, deliberate, almost artistic in their depravity. Police arrived to a pre-packaged horror show, the air thick with blood and gasoline. Flies swarmed, silence hung heavy. The visual tableau was always the centerpiece, dismembered bodies arranged to shock. This was his signature, more unique than any fingerprint. Even hardened investigators were shaken. This was violence that felt personal. It wasn't just about killing. It was about annihilation. Officers carried the images home, haunted by the slow-motion horror. The sound of any chainsaw sent a jolt of fear through their veins. Morales knew every gruesome scene was a victory against order. He used the system, cameras, reports, headlines, to amplify his terror. Each photograph, each report was another brick in his monument of fear. The saw was his pen. He wrote a story of chaos in blood. Morales turned brutality into legend. Hunting Hernando Morales was like chasing a phantom through a labyrinth. The Colombian jungle was his ally, a green hell for authorities, a sanctuary for him. He knew every secret path, every hidden cave. Morales could vanish and reappear miles away, leaving police bewildered. The authorities fought wars on many fronts. Morales was just one terrifying component. Cartel alliances protected him or used his chaos to their advantage. Fear was his greatest shield. Informants were paralyzed, police demoralized. To speak his name was to sign your own death warrant. The network of silence protected him better than any bodyguard. The hunt was a deadly game of cat and mouse, with Morales always one step ahead. For years, he remained untouchable, a ghost in the jungle. In Colombia's underworld, information was currency, paid for in blood. The hunt for Morales became a marketplace of betrayal. Authorities offered rewards, putting a price on the ghost's head. Informants emerged, desperate, greedy, or vengeful, risking everything for a chance at freedom. Many tips led to dead ends or deadly ambushes. Morales fed false information, lured police into traps. Every piece of intelligence was suspect, every move a risk. But slowly, a picture formed: habits, safe houses, associates. The net tightened, not with one rope, but 1,000 threads of betrayal. The fear Morales created was now working against him. By 1992, the tide was turning in Colombia's drug war. The Medellin cartel fractured. Morales became a liability. His brutality drew too much attention. His protectors saw him as a loose end. The final tip came from within his own circle, a betrayal driven by fear and greed. Authorities had a location and a timeline, a farmhouse, a specific night. A special police unit assembled, moving through the jungle under a moonless sky. They surrounded the farmhouse, silent and precise. The assault was swift. Doors kicked in, flashbangs, shouts of "Policia!" Morales, caught by surprise, fought back. Shots rang out in the chaos. When the smoke cleared, the chainsaw man was dead. News of his death spread quickly. A wave of relief washed over Antioquia. The chainsaw had finally fallen silent. With Morales dead, the question remained. Who was he really? To authorities and cartels, he was a tool, a specialist in terror. His methods served a strategic purpose: control, elimination, fear. But many saw more: a true psychopath, an artist of agony. The drug wars didn't create him, they gave him a stage. In Antioquia, he became a myth, a boogeyman, a cautionary tale. Stories grew: black magic, invincibility, communion with jungle predators. He became a supernatural figure, a demon born of chaos. The truth is a terrifying blend: professional killer, sadist, legend. Morales was the perfect storm: man, monster, and myth. Decades after his death, Morales' ghost still haunts Antioquia. The physical scars have faded, but psychological wounds run deep. His name is spoken in hushed tones, a synonym for terror. The sound of a chainsaw still triggers dread. His story is woven into local folklore, a warning of how quickly order can collapse. The legacy of fear lingers, shaping communities and memories. Morales represents the nadir of the drug wars, a benchmark for horror. As Colombia rebuilds, his story is a warning: never again. The echoes of his chainsaw are a chilling whisper from the past,